Netflix's new Narnia adaptation has sparked a firestorm of debate online. Meryl Streep may be playing Aslan, the lion, and it has everyone thinking, what? Now, this one has struck a little bit close to home for me. I will admit, I grew up on the Chronicles of Narnia. It was literally the first books that I ever read were all the Chronicles of Narnia. First books I ever asked for. I had a teacher that read one of the books one day in class. We would take time reading them, and then from there I fell in love with it. Especially, my parents were excited to get it for me because C.S. Lewis is a Christian author, and yeah, there's a lot of good. Over the years, I've reread the books multiple times. I've grown to love and appreciate the books greatly. So this is of, let's just say I have some feelings about this. And to summarize this, I will pull up a post I made because there. So if you're just listening, if you can't see this, it is a post on X, and it says, I shared this. It says Meryl Streep is rumored to have been offered the role of Aslan in Greta Gerwig's Narnia film. And Freely Ashley, I'm not familiar with. I just saw them. This popped up in my feed, and so I shared it. But Freely Ashley shared it and said, put Narnia down right now. I agree. And I forgot to read mine. My comment is, the list of things I would actively ride over is small, but it's not non-existent. This is bad. Like, really, really bad. We're going to talk about it a little bit. I haven't heard a whole lot. I will say, I'll go over what I've heard and why I think this is so bad, why it doesn't even work outside of the Christian elements to this, why it doesn't work, who I think would be a good fit to play Aslan, and why this matters. Like, legitimately, why does this matter? So, let's get in. The first part we want to talk about are the Christian elements here, right? So, it is abundantly clear if you read the books, Aslan is supposed to be Jesus. It's even a joke I've heard that because J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were friends, and I heard that Tolkien was kind of giving C.S. Lewis a hard time over it, saying, you made a character that's Jesus and he's a lion. How original, right? So it's very obvious this is supposed to be Jesus. There is a if you've not read the books, it's been out forever. You should read them, or even watch the movies that are out. You should watch them. There are going to be things I say in here that kind of spoil different things, so getting that out of the way. But with how long the books have been out, you're probably aware. But there's multiple reflections of Jesus in Aslan. The ones that stick out the most to me is in the first book, which I have here, The Magician's Nephew. I have all of the books. You can see, like, I've had these for a while. They're falling apart. I need to get a new set, but I'm going to keep these, and I've read through these books multiple times. I'm not going to get on that one yet because I want to get back to that. I want to come full circle with that. But in The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe, there is a part where Edmund sins. He turns people in. He to this character called the White Witch, and he has committed a terrible act, right? The rules that they have in Narnia, because he did something that was evil, he now belongs to this White Witch. And so she's not giving him up. Aslan turns himself over to her in order for Edmund to be free, knowing full well that this is going to mean he's murdered. There's this whole thing. He's walking through the midst of these creatures. All of them know that he is powerful enough to absolutely just tear them apart. And he's walked up to this big stone table, and that is where it is done. That's where it happens. They kill him. He gave his life as a sacrifice for someone who didn't deserve it, who was actively in the wrong. That is about as much of a mirror of Jesus as you can possibly get. Even C.S. Lewis has actually said, there's a quote from him, "What might Christ become like if there were a world like Narnia?" That's him talking about Aslan. This isn't subtle. Aslan is called the son of the emperor over the sea, a clear nod to God the Father. So this is very obvious. This is supposed to be Jesus. Jesus is not a female. Jesus was a man. God, in the text of Scripture, refers to himself as a man. Now we see from all the way from the magician's nephew to the last battle, there is these elements all throughout. I don't have enough time. I want this to be a shorter video. I don't have time to go through all of these. I would highly encourage you read the books. They are phenomenal. They're actually written for a younger audience, so anybody can get in and read them. Absolutely love them. But there are small references to things like ideas of redemption, victory over death, tons of Christian symbolism all throughout. C.S. Lewis did this on purpose. This was intended to be a Christian story. There's even a quote from C.S. Lewis. I talked about this when I had on, if you are familiar with Cody, we had on, it was a while back, a friend of mine, and we talked about this idea of story and kind of pushing theological points through story, and that's something that C.S. Lewis loved to do. And he had a quote. It was, "Steal past the watchful dragons," and it was this idea that you could get a theological point or even a gospel message, a gospel presentation past these people. They were on guard. They were watching for it. They didn't want the religion, but they wanted a good story. And so you could give them the gospel in the form of a good story, and you were giving them the gospel. It's a beautiful concept that I've seen some other people try to illustrate, and I've seen some people do it well. But I've also seen some people do it not well. This is why this is so important. There is a purpose behind the story. This is not just a simple thing you throw out there. Like, this was thought out. Okay, now the reason this is such a big deal, as I said, it's not just a random character that gets gender swapped here, right? I think this is intentional. There is a lot of me. I have a group chat with some family, and somebody shared this in there earlier today, and my dad actually made the comment that, of course, like, why do they keep trying to make God a woman, and a white liberal woman at that? But I do think that's what the intent is here. Hollywood greatly tries to take everything that we have. They hate Christians. They hate Christian values. And I think whenever they have a chance, they try to take what is Christian and bend it to their own wicked desires. and then throw it in our faces. They spit in the face of Christian art and literature, and they think that it's funny. They are intentionally trying to put Aslan as a female because Aslan is supposed to be Jesus. It's not just a random gender swap. This is intentional. There's no other reason to do it. It makes no sense. Aslan's identity isn't arbitrary. This is a central piece of Christian theology. Jesus is often called the Lion of Judah, a male figure, and Aslan is often referred to as the lion, which is intentional to show that connection there. If you gender swap that, there is a good chance you're taking away a lot of that, a lot of the ties that are there. You don't need to change it. There's no good point in changing it. I think Netflix should take note of what's going on around. Stay true to the source material. Two big things come to mind recently that we've seen. I think of The Rings of Power, which they were not good. They were bad. There's a lot of things they did explicitly against what the original story was. Things like character types and trying to show evil characters as good and having families when there's no families there, or they did a lot of stuff that was actually against what was already written. It wasn't even just a throwing in DEI stuff or woke stuff or anti-Christian stuff. Because Lord of the Rings is Christian too, by the way, if you were not aware. But they did stuff that was against the original story itself. And people didn't like it. Rings of Power is not very highly rated. Anyone I know that liked Lord of the Rings at all, like the best I heard of Rings of Power was of the first season. And someone said it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. It was okay enough that I may come back for a second season and watch. Like that's the best that I've heard from people that are actually Lord of the Rings fans. So, not great. Getting away from the source material. Snow White, recently, Disney Snow White is set to lose, I think, like $200 million. Like it is tanking. It is bad in epic proportions. It is tanking. And they went very hard away from the source material. So even looking at this, not as a necessarily Christian point of view, just a practical standpoint, it is not a good idea to take something that is as beloved as The Lord of the Rings, Snow White, The Chronicles of Narnia, and to shake it up as drastically as what they are supposedly going to be doing. On top of that, you don't need to. The stories that are written are famous and beloved and well known for a reason. They're good stories. I can guarantee you there is nobody on staff at Amazon or Netflix or Disney who is a better storyteller than C.S. Lewis. I would bet my life on it. It's not. There's no reason to change it up. If you want to take minor changes that may look better or play better on film than they did in the book, that's fine. If you want to do small things, take some creative liberty a little bit, that's fine. That's to be expected. But not massive changes like this. It will not work. So, I think, personally, my choice, if you watch the originals, Liam Neeson did the voice for Aslan. I think Liam Neeson would do fine. I think he did well with it. I don't know who specifically I would pick. Um, actually, I think James Earl Jones would be great, but for obvious reasons, that's not going to probably happen. But I think it should be someone who is either British or has a British accent, because I think that fits. But they also need to have a deep voice. The reason why, if you look at, I was going to actually read an excerpt out of here, The Magician's Nephew, but I didn't realize how much it covers what I want to, so I'm just going to summarize. If you read it, there's a scene where they come into this world and it's all dark. There's nothing beneath them, around them. It's just all dark. And they start to hear this singing. It's low, and it sounds like it's starting to get louder. And they can't, at times it feels like it's coming from every direction, and then it even seems like it's coming from the earth beneath them, but it gets louder and louder and louder. And then eventually they start to see the sky starts to light up. Before the sky lights up, they see stars. And they don't slowly come into existence. It's just boom, all at once. All of them are there. And then they see like water running on the ground towards them. But it's not water. It is grass literally springing up. And they see trees start to come up and animals start coming along. And then they see this lion. The singing is coming from the lion. The lion is speaking that world into existence. It is, in my opinion, still today, one of the best mirrors of what we see in the Genesis story there. And in The Magician's Nephew. Again, one of the best examples I think I've ever seen. It is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I would love to see that played out on a screen. But there's a very specific voice that works with that. I think, I was actually talking with my oldest daughter about this today. And here's what I think Netflix should do. If you want to turn this into a success, here's something that I think you should do. Make the movies based on the books. Have an additional weekly series that is based in the world of Narnia, but it's separate from the characters and stuff of the books. Scrap the movies that are already done. Do a movie at a time. Magician's Nephew first, right? And then launch into your weekly series. Have it based around whoever you want it to be based around on. You can have a female lead character, that's whatever. But have it based in the world of Narnia. And then as they go along, they can have interactions with characters from the movies. You can have maybe a season ends with the characters that we have loved now in this series because they are part of our childhood. They're part of this world that we grew up with, and they're exploring places that we've never even seen before. So we see these characters there, and something happens, and they get saved by King Peter. Well, then we get introduced to the second movie, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and we see a young boy, Peter, who looks the same. And so we're intrigued to see what happened. How did he become king? And you can keep going along through all the books like this with a weekly series that goes along with it. I think it would play really well. Obviously, I'm not a Netflix executive. I would be more than happy to share my thoughts if I were to be offered. That won't ever happen. I can just about guarantee it. I would be honored to share and help guide this process, because this is a beloved series for me. This is someone who did not read books, right? I did not read books. I hated reading books. I loved these. I've read these multiple times, over and over and over. I was excited when Netflix got the rights to Chronicles of Narnia. I blinked for a second. I was excited. I wanted this to be something. I wanted this to come into something. And I've been worried since they announced Greta Gerwig as being on the project. And this is even more worrisome. So if any Netflix execs happen to see this and they want to bring in the opinion of someone who cares deeply about this series, I would be honored to assist. But if not, don't screw it up. Sincerely, a diehard Chronicles of Narnia fan. Thanks. God bless.